And I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today before the committee. Chairman McGovern, Ranking Member Cole, members of the committee, thank you. And allow me to testify in this portion of the Committee on Homeland Security's Build Back Better Act. Like many of my Republican colleagues, I share the concern and frustration over being completely shut out of this process. And at the risk of being a bit avuncular here, I have a very good working relationship with Chairman Thompson. I work very well with him. And I dare say that if we had an opportunity to do this ourselves together, we would have done, it would have been a much different product. And unfortunately, we didn't have that opportunity. Not only were Homeland Republicans not part of any discussion or drafting of this legislation, but the text has significantly changed from what the committee marked up in September. And it's likely to change yet again in similarly non-transparent way without any input from the minority, any. And that's just not like what we do in Homeland Security. The Homeland Security title of the reconciliation package originally included $865 million in funding for CISA, or the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. Since our committee's markup, it seems the majority has made significant changes in the dark to increase the funding to $1.5 billion, including an astounding $900 million for sustainability environmental programs. I don't even know what that means, and it's not delineated what that means. While Homeland Republicans broadly support CISA's mission, and Mr. Thompson and myself have done a lot to enhance our mission and improve their capabilities, throwing various amounts of money at random CISA programs without need-based analysis may ultimately undermine their mission. Nowhere does the bill even mention ransomware, which is a preeminent cyber threat and the subject of many recent high-profile attacks. Given the cybersecurity risks facing our critical infrastructure, I've long advocated for CISA to be a $5 billion agency within the next 5 years, and the fiscal year 22 Homeland Security Appropriations Bill already put CISA on that path with a 16% increase. Well, I'm very pleased to see that CISA's resources have mostly been met by recent appropriations. Homeland Republicans oppose the irresponsible spending in this package. However, my biggest concern is not what is in the Homeland title of this legislation, but what is not included. Out of the $1.5 billion price tag, there is not a single dollar for border security or counterterrorism. Not a single dollar, nothing. It was confirmed last week that the number of illegal border encounters in fiscal year 21 reached an all-time high as a result of President Biden's January 20th orders. There were over 1.7 million illegal border encounters in fiscal year 21, and over 192,000 illegal encounters in September alone. That's a 232% increase compared to September 2020, and a 258% increase above the 3-year average for September. September was the 7th straight month with more than 170,000 encounters, a trend never before recorded. We know this is not just children and families that are being encountered at the border. In fiscal year 21, over 1.1 million single adults were encountered along the southwest border, compared to about 350,000 the year before. And to be clear, this border crisis is much more than economic. Migrants seeking asylum, as criminals, weapons, drugs, and trafficked persons are coming across the border in record numbers. 10,763 individuals with criminal convictions were arrested in fiscal year 21 attempting to cross the border, compared to around 2,400 the year before. U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized over twice as much fentanyl this year than in fiscal year 20, nearly 4 times more fentanyl than in fiscal year 2019. Over 11,000 pounds of fentanyl were seized this year. That's enough to kill 2.5 billion people, or the entire U.S. population 7 times over. Now, I was a federal organized crime prosecutor on the border, and that's where I started my career in El Paso, Texas. And I can tell you, when you're seizing that much more is getting across. And there's no question in my mind that this country has been flooded with fentanyl. In my district alone, 75 or 80 people in the first 6 months of this year died of fentanyl-related deaths. That's unacceptable. That is an astounding number, and it doesn't include the drugs and other illicit activity that evades our brave men and women at the border patrol every day. According to outgoing Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott, over 400,000 people illegally crossed the border and got away this past year. They're called gotaways. That's just ones we know got away, on top of the 1.7 million, on top of the ones we don't know about. These are individuals for which we have no information regarding their identities or their current whereabouts. This is even more concerning given that known or suspected terrorists, I'm going to repeat, known or suspected terrorists, are crossing the border, quote, at a level we have never seen before, end quote, according to Chief Scott. Given the vacuum that has been created by this disastrous withdrawal from this administration's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, we know that terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda are reconstituting and planning attacks. Last weekend in Virginia, there was a concern about an ISIS-related terrorist attack. Last weekend. And the New York Times just had an article today, and I urge you to look it up, talking about the resurgence of ISIS in Afghanistan and what that might mean for the homeland. And I urge you to take a look at that. In this heightened threat environment, where our southern border has already been made vulnerable and exploitable due to this administration's policies, how is there not a single dollar for border security or counterterrorism capabilities? But there is $900 million for something called sustainability environmental programs. It is for this reason that Homeland Republicans offered numerous common sense amendment at markup that were all rejected out of hand by the majority. These priorities included funding for border security barrier technology, Border Patrol staffing and hiring, screening and vetting capabilities, ransomware mitigation, transportation security technology, and more. And it's unfortunate that my colleagues have chosen partisanship over politics regarding the security of our republic, and I know that's not the choice of Mr. Thompson. This completely misguided reconciliation package does nothing to support our men and women on the front line of the border crisis or secure the American people from the numerous threats to the homeland. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Thank you very much. Chairwoman Maloney.